I want to start off, we'll get going shortly. I want to introduce our panel. We have Ed Scales, he's an attorney and a part-time radio host. Ezra Marcus, he's with Ed Scales. Ezra Marcus with Monroe Radio. Richard Grusin is all kinds of things in this community. He's taught most of us to act. And Richard Talmadge from the restaurant store. I'm Todd German, I guess I never say that. And then if the board of Hometown would just raise their hand. Mark? These guys do a lot of work behind the scenes. They're all volunteers. I was asked to do a quick PSA before we get going. Joyce from the elections office is actually set up to register you to vote. Now I know everybody in here is registered to vote, but just in case you were traveling for the last 10 years, go see Joyce. Or if you need some way to hide that, you can change your party or change your address tonight with Joyce, which is pretty neat. With that, we're going to get right into mosquito control. District 1, the Republican race. Why it's partisan, I'm not really sure for mosquito control. I guess it's for Democrat or Republican mosquitoes. But we're a little format change. We have a little extra time, so as opposed to having these guys have to recite their 5-minute get-to-know-you speech, we're going to go right into questions with them. It'll be the same format for the different races through the night. So with that, we'll introduce Jillian Cranney-Gage and Maggie Gutierrez. They're running for mosquito control, and this is a race that pays an enormous, I believe it's $21,000 a year. So I don't know, they'll think that's worth it when they're done with the campaign. But then we're going to go right into questions. Ed, you want to lead us off? So, turn over to Ed Scales, please.
Power button gets me every time. I think, okay. My first question is actually for Ezra. Where did you get that nice shirt? But I guess that's Maggie, this question is for you. Joan Ward Pappy has occupied the seat that you're running for several years. What do you perceive as Ms. Pappy's greatest accomplishment, and what do you perceive as her biggest disappointment to you as a candidate?
Thank you for the question, Ed, because it's a very difficult question, first of all. Thank you, Ms. Pappy, for your years of service. I believe the voters of this county re-elected you several times based on what they believed was the good job that you were doing for our community. So we appreciate all your years of public service. As to the second part of your question, I'm not going to answer that tonight. I decline to answer it because I don't believe that there's anything specific that I can point to Ms. Pappy has done that has been difficult or that was detrimental to mosquito control. So thank you again, Ms. Pappy, for everything you've done for us, and I think the community appreciates your service.
Good evening. Good evening, Maggie. Good evening, Jill. Jill, what's your position on potential use of genetically modified mosquitoes by the district to combat dengue fever?
My take on the use of genetically modified mosquitoes is, like I stated in the paper, I believe that the district is doing a great job by waiting an organization that's going to permit this operation. I believe that we owe it to the community for the safety and the residents of our citizens. It is our tax dollars that will be funding this operation, so I feel that they've been doing a great job by awaiting an organization. I feel that Mr. Doyle is going to continue to await until he finds somebody that's going to step up to the plate and make our residents feel comfortable and safe with the operation. So that is my take. If they can support the operation with research that it's not going to affect our community and it's not going to affect our tourism industry and the businesses and the safety of our residents, I feel that that organization will step up and permit the operation, and that's my stand on it.
Yeah, I want to continue down with Maggie. Could you edify us, if you will, about what actually the genetically altered mosquito actually does? Is there really any kind of proven danger to the population? And exactly how does it take care of our dengue?
Thank you for the question. I believe the first part of your question was, what is a genetically modified mosquito, correct? And my understanding from reading the literature and doing my homework on this issue, there's a company called Oxitec in London that has been able to genetically alter a mosquito so that when it mates with a female, it does not produce a living organism, another mosquito. So essentially, it would take that female mosquito from being able to reproduce, and it would be sterile. It's a sterile male mosquito. And that's important because females are the only mosquitoes that bite us. Male mosquitoes do not bite us. Now, the issue which has come up with regard to this type of scientific technology is that there are some indications that a female could be released when 1,500 male mosquitoes are released, 1 out of the 1,500 may be a female. So that's a question that needs to be answered. People don't understand that if a female is altered and is released and it bites us, will that have any effect on us? And then the next question is, how much will this genetically modified mosquito linger in our environment, will affect our ecology? So some of those questions have been answered by the Cayman Islands study that was done. There's another study being done in Brazil, as well as Malaysia by Oxitec. But the issue is Oxitec is giving us all that information. They're the ones that are giving us all the data on this issue instead of an independent group. That's why I believe Michael Doyle wants to have the government, our government, step in and supervise it so that we can, by way of giving us permits, so that we can say our data is independent, it's autonomous. So mosquito control biologists are looking into this. Don't mean to bore you all with the very scientific answer, but that is what's going on right now with this issue. And so some people are fearful. They don't realize that for the last 50 years, we have been using genetically modified things, whether it be milk, fruit flies, insulin. But when we hear those terms, I think it makes us question, what's going to be the long-term lingering effects. So I think it's important that we are able to answer those questions, so everybody's satisfied when it is released, if it's released, because it will save us money. It will save the budget money in terms of using pesticides. We want to get away from using pesticides, try to use new technology.
This is for Jill. I'm always curious about why one casts themselves into the public arena. Obviously, you have got some thoughts, some convictions, some feeling as to what you would bring to this specific job. What is the reason that Jill is running for this Mosquito Control Board, and if elected, what kind of changes are you prepared to impact or make in that position?
The reason why I decided to run for the Mosquito Control Board is I'm the senior accountant for the Florida Keys Aqueduct Authority, which I've done for the last 6 years. I feel that the Mosquito Board has a substantial budget, and I feel like they need someone with a financial background on the board. The question about throwing yourself out to the public, I am a mother of 3. I do care about the residents and the children in this community, and that's one of the biggest things in the Keys is people don't realize what an important organization that the Mosquito Control Board is. I've talked to residents from Oregon and Massachusetts, and they can't believe that we actually have an elected board down here. But we wouldn't be able to live in the Florida Keys if it wasn't for the Mosquito Control Board. So the reason why I'm running is I want to make sure that the tax dollars from the residents of Monroe County are being utilized effectively. I think we've got a great group of commissioners on the board now, and I feel that with my financial background, it would be a valuable asset to the Mosquito Control Board. I am the younger generation. I feel it's important that we step up to the plate and get involved. If elected, I think one of the things I'd like to see with the Mosquito Control Board is I'd like to see them produce a comprehensive annual financial review, which would give the citizens a real idea of where their expenditures and revenues are going. I think with that type of budget, like the other organizations in the community, that would be a valuable tool for the residents to see that would be available online every year. So when elected, that would be one of my first goals, is to show the residents where their money is being spent, because everyone that is investing their tax dollars want to see a return.
You touched on this briefly, but is there a specific line item or line items in the district's budget that if you were elected, you think should be reduced or eliminated? And explain your answer.
Going into this campaign, I didn't want to say that I was going to, if elected, go in there and start cutting things. Obviously, that takes experience. You have to get more familiar with the organization. I do know that 90% of our tax dollars are contributed to Mosquito Control's budget, and 65% of their expenditures are salaries. So I know salaries over the years has been a big concern. I know Mosquito Control is doing a great job now with their reorganization plan. They've combined jobs and they're reducing jobs through attrition. But I think there is a part of the budget that every organization doesn't want to talk about. And when elected, I'd like to find those areas and reduce them as much as possible. I want to make sure that the organization is operating effectively, but also minimizing the cost as much as we can for our tax dollars and our residents.
So as a follow-up, at this stage, you don't have anything real specific yet?
No, I think overall the budget needs to be reviewed and reduced. But like I said, a huge component of that budget is salaries, which I know in the process right now they're reviewing, which may, be more in-depth review for those salaries.
I'd like to follow that up with Maggie too. Where would you make cuts in the budget to reduce the budget? Where would you like to see a little more lean budget? Where would you go for that?
I'm not going to sit here and tell you that there are specific line items that should be cut at this time until I am able to sit down and look at the new budget which is being formulated. I was at the auditing committee meeting last month, the budgeting meeting. I've been to the board meeting, so I'm pretty well versed in where the board's going and their 3-year strategic plan that they put into place. And in that strategic plan, they've directed the new director, Michael Doyle, to cut $1.5 million over the next 3 years. And that's a lot. And I think they're doing a good job, this new commission, of tightening the belts, and they're looking at things line by line. And that's what I would do as a new commissioner. I would look at things line by line, because we're in a budget process right now. So to give you specific cuts or areas that I would look at more strongly than others, I have to wait to see what this budget year shows. But I would definitely add a budget line item for a capital expenditure fund. I think that's something missing in this budget. I think every year the budget has not taken consideration what we're going to do to use to replace or repair the helicopters, the airplanes, the vehicles. And so it's done out of the general fund. So I think that's a line item that should be used and should be looked at by the commission. And I have a business economic double degree, and I'm a lawyer too, so I understand how tough it is to make those kind of decisions. And I think I have the experience with all the commissions and the boards I've sat on over this last 10 years in this county to be able to make those tough decisions. And they're going to be tough. I mean, they're going to be, people don't want to hear cut. What I hear going up and down the keys when I'm campaigning and talking to people is, we want to kill the mosquitoes, kill more per dollar. And I think that's really what we need to be mindful of, because it's all about public health.
Question for Maggie. Can you cite a specific example of how your experience and your leadership solved the problem?
Yes. As I've said during this campaign, I'm the only candidate that has experience sitting on commissions, boards, and committees. I'm very committed to this community. I've done a lot of public service, whether it be sitting on committees for Habitat for Humanity or sitting on committees for our association. I'm a Rotary Board member, or just former Rotary Board member. I sit on the HARP Commission. The mayor of the city appointed me to his advisory committee on homelessness. So I've spent a lot of time rolling my sleeves up, getting to know the people in this community, working hard, being a public servant. And I really think, before you ask this community and the public for their vote for public office, you have to show them that you have the experience, that you have the commitment, and that you're able to ask the questions, make the tough decisions because of the experience you have sitting on these boards and commissions.
Choosing any board or any body, can you give us a specific example of how your leadership and your expertise were able to solve a problem?
board to sit on, but the Mayor's Committee on Homelessness was a tough one for me. At the time, I was an assistant public defender serving in that capacity in Monroe County. And so what we were charged with to do was to take a look at the issue here in Key West, to come up with some difficult answers, which came in the form of the panhandling zones, the changing and modification of the open container laws. So that was one of the difficult things that I've done recently for the city. And on HARC, every HARC commission meeting, we have one tomorrow night, every HARC commission meeting is a difficult one. People spend most money they do on an asset on their home. And when they want to do something to their home that has to be within the guidelines, it's difficult to make those decisions. But when you're charged to do it and you agree to do it, you do it within the guidelines, I think it's a good thing to give back to the community.
Jill, I'd like to ask you something. A while ago, there was a little problem with the television program the Mosquito Control Board had in communicating once a week to us exactly what you were doing, what the Mosquito Control Board was doing, what was going on. With that going, how do you see you can communicate better, if you could, with better than what's going on right now as far as communication with the public is concerned?
Good question. Every day I open the paper and I see the spray alert. It's the morning of. I think communication from the district needs to be more proactive. I think they should be giving people more notice of when they're spraying, because some people don't read the paper till 9 or 10 o'clock and they've already sprayed and already came through your neighborhood. I think the televised meetings shows respect to the residents, for them to be able to sit at home and see what's going on within their community. Again, my big thing is these are your hard-earned tax dollars that are funding these operations. You should be able to sit in your own home and see what's going on in your community, see what decisions are being made at the board table if you're not in the room. So I would be open to seeing what other alternatives we could to get those televised again, to make it more comfortable for the community to see what's going on in their community. So I think communication is a big key to having an open relationship with the community. Thank you.
All right, that's going to conclude mosquito control. Thank you, ladies.